it is all up to you. You got it.
Thank you. So I'm going to read a statement that I gleaned from Science of Mind, and then we'll have 1 minute of silence for you to for all of us to contemplate and get whatever gift there is from this idea. And then I will do an invocation, and we will move into Reverend Angelica's talk. So if you'll center yourself and quiet your mind and open your heart to hear, God is always at hand and responds to me as I engage with it. Every time I think, I am thinking into a receptive plastic substance which receives the imprint of my thought and seeks to reproduce it for me as experience in form. It responds by corresponding.
My peace I give unto you. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. My peace I give unto you.
And perhaps that is the highest prayer, the prayer for peace. Peace within, peace in our hearts and minds, and peace in our community and peace in our world. And so today, in these unusual times, we bring our mind and center it on peace, pervading the hearts, minds, and souls of each and every person, knowing that Spirit, God, the Creator, is in charge, and that all is well behind the appearances that seem so difficult for some of us at this time. And so staying centered on peace, on love, and on the goodness that God is, we know that we will move through and come past the difficulties, and that all will reveal the result of such steadfastness to our love for one another, our love for Spirit, and our belief in the love and peace of the world. We let this be so, and so it is. Amen.
Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. My peace I give unto you.
Thank you, Jackson. That was beautiful. And now I give you Reverend Angelica.
Well, thank you very much, both of you. That was very good. Good way to start out the morning. So my talk this morning is called How Engaged is God in You? And you know, this talk is almost like last week's talk. You know, how engaged is God in you? Well, God is as engaged in you as you are engaged in God. So there we go. There's your talk. However, I decided to look up the definition of engaged, And it meant involved in activities such as occupied or busy. It means pledged to be married or betrothed. And the third definition is greatly interested or committed. And I thought, well, all three of these could be worked out as part of our idea of engagement. So spirit is 100% engaged with us. And the question is, are we 100% engaged with spirit or just with the world? Or are we 50% spirit, 50% world, etc.? And sometimes people think that being 100% engaged in spirit means pulling away and becoming a hermit. And this is not what it means. What it really means is stepping out in spirit. Being engaged in and as spirit is stepping out in spirit, not being embarrassed, or I remember suddenly I have this memory flash through my mind of being in India, and we were talking about how all the little pedicab drivers had a Ganesh or something, a little altar on their motorcycle or their pedicab, and we walked around the rest of that week talking about coming out of the closet for God. And I think that in a way, that's what it's time for us to really come out of the closet, be totally engaged with spirit. Dr. Holmes says there's a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. And the truth is, not only can you use it, but you are using it all the time. I mean, since we were born, we've been using this power because it works according to our predominant beliefs, our predominant feelings. And this is what the whole Science of Mind textbook is about. It's about really looking at, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I believing in? And we want to believe that there's a power for good in the universe greater than we are. So this means to me that love or life or God or spirit, whatever you want to call it, is living out its perfect life as us. It's knowing more of itself as us all the time. And the only way that spirit has of bringing forth our values and desires is through us. I know that in the middle of that election night, I can remember I had turned off the TV and I had gone to bed, and I wanted to go into this begging place. Please, God, let what I want to have happen, happen. And it was like throwing it outside of myself. And that is not the way this works. The only way spirit has of bringing forth our values and desires is through us. So Dr. Holmes says in their complete unedited original edition of the Science Mind, we need not leave the world, for we may engage in all of its activities without being controlled by them. We may be in the world of affairs as masters of ourselves and of our minds. And that idea of being masters of our minds is so important right now. With the continued divisiveness that's going on in our world, I really feel like it's our job as religious scientists to know the truth. And the truth is that there is this power for good, and we can use this power anytime, and that this power, we can use this power for peace. And balance. These are the two things that I think we really need a lot of right now. I mean, I think it was Lori who wrote in her Facebook, thing that she started to exhale that day that the results were announced, and she wished she could complete the exhalation. So there's all of these stories going on in the world. Our world is built on stories, and we tend to believe in the ones that we hear the most. So we have to really pay attention in order to engage in all of the world's activities without being controlled by them, we have to pay attention to what we're allowing ourselves to listen to, what we're allowing ourselves to be fed. So another quote that I really like by Dr. Holmes is this one. I live in the faith that there is a presence and power greater than I am that nurtures and supports me in ways I could not even imagine. I know that this presence is all knowing and all power and is always right where I am. I live in the faith of this power. So rather than being controlled by the stories of our world, allow yourselves to really live in that faith that there is a power greater than we are that we're using, and we want to use it correctly. And I think the correctly isn't one side or another. The using it correctly is knowing peace, knowing balance, knowing kindness and compassion, and knowing that these things are what are paramount in our world instead of all the other stuff. So this means to me that in a way, we're each called to action. In every story, we're a part of it. So right now, we are God who's watching world events unfurl and moving things forward in whatever way we're seeing them. Some people are seeing them one way, some people are seeing another, some people are seeing them both ways. There is no black and white to any story. All stories have so many components. That's what makes them interesting. That's what gives them the tension. And, if we were reading a book about this particular period of history, we wouldn't be attached to it because it's a book, it's a story. And so maybe that's what we could do is think about, oh, there's this magnificent soap opera happening here. I used to have a t-shirt years and years ago, a beautiful pink t-shirt with a gold metallic star on it that said, starring in my own soap opera. And I just love that. I mean, I wish I had that t-shirt now, because this is what we're doing. We're starring. Each one of us are a star in our own soap opera. And so ask yourself, is my soap opera dramatic and filled with political intrigue and all these conspiracy theories, etc.? Or is my soap opera one that is peaceful and nature loving and recognizing the good in people? And the tension is brought into the story by seeing the things that are good, the things that are pleasant that are happening. So this made me think about the fact that sometimes we're the ones who reluctantly answer the call, and yet we're afraid to talk to others who feel differently from us, who might not listen. And that we can't let anything stop us from speaking our truth. This memory flashes. Years ago in Hawaii, I hosted in my center a panel on peace. And so I had a Buddhist monk, I had a Christian minister, I had a rabbi, and myself. And I gave all of us a certain amount of time to talk, and I let myself be the last one. And each one of them came to this idea of creating peace on earth from their particular religious viewpoint. And at the end, I remember standing up on my stage thinking, now, how could I say what I want to say without getting judged by anybody? And it almost made me not say some of the things that I had wanted to say or share what I wanted to share about our teaching. But I stepped forward and I just opened my mouth and started speaking. And it was so interesting because I stepped into it thinking that these other men were going to judge me and that at the end, at the reception we had afterwards, each one of them came up and picked up part of what I had said and said, wow, you know, when you said this, I really appreciated this. And I thought, oh, I don't have to be reluctant to answer the call. I don't have to be afraid to talk to others who feel differently from me. And if they don't listen, oh, well, right? Everybody's going to hear what they're going to hear anyway. That's the interesting thing about stories. I remember years ago discovering when we were in Hawaii, I used to stand at the door and greet everybody or say goodbye to everybody as they left. And so many people would say, oh, I loved it when you said this about, you know, forgiveness, or this about whatever. And they would be different little aspects of my talk, and some wouldn't be about my talk at all. But that's what they heard. I remember somebody saying, I just love that part about forgiveness. And I'm thinking, did I ever talk about forgiveness? I don't think I did. But, and that gave me the realization that if I think I'm giving one talk, but the truth is I'm giving 60 talks. We hear what we hear through our own lenses of perception. So this whole idea of engage, from the very moment I got that word in that title, all I could think of was Picard going, engage. And to me, this is, you know, when does he say this? He says this when they're going into warp speed, right? And this is what's happening for us right now. We have moved into a new level of consciousness as humanity. We're upping the playground tremendously. We're being dragged by pain or pulled by pleasure or whatever. But right now, what I realize that saying nothing is not an option. I have to engage. And I believe so do you. So does everybody. So I don't mean you have to engage on a world stage, but here you can reflect on this. What's an example from your life where you were reluctant to engage or speak up about something because you were afraid of being rejected or not listening to? Probably a memory popped right into your mind of a time. And so let me ask you, were you reluctant? Were you feeling afraid, or was that fear manifesting as stubbornness or being obstinate? Sometimes that's what happens to me. Is things don't seem to be working the way I'd like them to, and I get stubborn about it because it's got to happen my way. And yet the truth is, we're all going to engage in the way that works for us, in the way that's right to us. But saying nothing in our lives is not an option. It's time, to me, this means it's time for us to step into that warp speed. It's time for us to really be who we truly are, God in form. Dr. Holmes also says, I'm not going to read the but. We are born to be happy, to be abundantly supplied with every good thing, to have fun in living, to consciously unite with the divine power that is around us and within us, and to grow and to expand forever. To grow and expand forever, to consciously unite with the divine power. How engaged is God in us? As much as we're willing to allow it. And to me, it's time to open our hearts. It's time to open our minds. It's time to realize that we're definite. We don't even have to unite with the divine power. It's already within us. It always has been. It always will be. And so we want to move into the conscious awareness of that more than we ever have before, because this is another growth period that we're going through, another period of expansion. And I know that we can be happy, be abundantly supplied. We can have fun in it. It doesn't have to be something bad or something difficult. It's going to be good. It is good. If we really let go of all the stories that we've been listening to and contemplating about the chaos in the world, if we really let go of all that and just see what our immediate circle of influence is, probably we've been feeling peaceful. We can allow ourselves to be happy. And if we stand in the truth of our being and we let that power radiate out of us, then not only will it fill up our particular circle of influence like it already has, but it will just keep moving out around the world until we see that we're creating a world that is working for each one of us in the way that we're allowing it to work. So my idea about being engaged is about having a bigger bucket, bringing a bigger bucket to the power, being more fully engaged. In fact, the image that comes to my mind right now is from that movie E.T., where he has that heart light. And to me, it's like the heart light never dies. It can't. But we can squeeze down the lens so that it only comes out a tiny little bit, or we can open up the lens to its fullest extent and just be the vehicles for the divine, for love, for all the things that our heart desires right here and right now in our world. So let's say this affirmation together and we'll go into treatment. Whoops. Whoop. How did I get? There we go. Okay. I was trying to move my little pictures out of the way. Pamela wrote this one. She's writing them this month, and these are good ones. God's spirit is always available to engage with me as I open to engage with it. I stay aware of this cooperative interaction and allow my higher self to guide and inspire me. Today, I am engaged with life. Today, I am engaged with life. And I choose to let this be my method of operation from this moment on. I am engaged with life. And what I know is life is God, spirit, love. In fact, we say here in religious science, there's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. And that life is my life right now. And so embodying this truth, that the life I am living is divine life, I now declare, speaking in the first person for all of us, I now declare that I'm no longer living in a soap opera that is filled with chaos. I'm living in peace. I stand in the center of peace, and I let it radiate out of me and fill up every place I am at. I'm a center of divine peace. I know this peace is an energy that is absolutely amazing, that is everywhere present, that is totally powerful, that is also infinitely intelligent. And so I let myself rely on my own divinity more than I ever have before. I know what is mine to do in every situation. And I let myself come to that is mine to do with a sense of peace, with a sense of compassion for the others in the experience, with a sense of love. God is love. So I come from that God place, that unconditionally loving place. And I know that as I walk my path called life this week, that I do so in this frame of mind. The stories that I am writing, the new chapters that I'm creating, are ones of loving kindness and compassion, of service to others, of knowing that who I am is more powerful than I ever thought I was before. And I rejoice in this. With every fiber of my being, I rejoice in this truth. And I see and declare that somehow, in some way, I've been transformed by being here this morning. And I see the results of it in every moment of my life. And how grateful I am for this community, for this teaching, for this place that we live that is so beautiful, for planet Earth, for our country, for our families and friends. And mostly, I am grateful for knowing that God is good and all is well. So I release these words into the law of mind, knowing they are so, and so it is. So our music